I've climbed to Radiant in the first episode, and I've coached thousands of students in the last 4 years. But before I managed to even climb to Radiant, I wasted a lot of time, made tons of mistakes, and practiced things extremely inefficiently. Hey guys, it's Konpeki, and though I can't roll back time, I know that if I could, I'd be able to rank up and improve so much faster than I did originally. That's why I wanted to use this video to go over the steps that I would take to learn Valorant if I could start all over again. Now, I know most of you guys aren't just starting out, but even if you're already a more experienced player, I'm sure this video will help to improve more efficiently from here on out. And before the video starts, if you're tired of being hard stuck and you want to hit Immortal Plus like hundreds of our students, my team of Radiant coaches and I will help you climb 500 RR guaranteed or your money back inside our premium 10-week coaching program called the Immortal Roadmap Program. Inside, you'll be getting live lessons, scrims, and one-on-ones from 1K RR Radiant coaches and world-class championship-level coaches such as Comet, who's a coach on Vitality that just played in Champs, and Milan, who was a coach on Ascend when they won Champs in 2021. We just opened up signups for the 21st season cohort, so if you're serious about ranking up, book a free call with me or one of our coaches using the link in the description below. And back to the video. Okay, so to start out learning Valorant all over again, we need to build our fundamentals. Aim, movement, gun control, and crosshair placement are the building blocks of any Valorant player. Fundamentals are the kind of skills that everyone, regardless of rank, should try to practice every single day. Think of how Kobe would practice making 1,000 shots a day, regardless of how good of a player he was. Therefore, setting a good practice routine that works on these skills is extremely important, both to get the basics down as well as setting ourselves up for the future by having a reliable routine that we can continue to use over time. So let's dive straight into some drills you can use to work on different parts of your mechanics. First, for your general aim, since Valorant is so flick heavy with a large focus on micro adjustments, I like to practice my flicks with a simple drill in the range. There, I make sure to isolate the flick and the micro adjustment motions so that I practice both parts properly. First, we do a quick flick in the direction of a bot, and then we micro adjust to make sure we are on target and shoot. A quick tip about flicks is that you want to be quick and snappy, but not at the expense of creating too much tension in your hands. Try to relax your hand towards the end of the flick so that your micro adjustments can be smooth and accurate. And for your micro adjustments, try to use more of your fingertips instead of your whole arm or wrist. When you're starting out, you should clearly isolate your flicks and micro adjustments, but over time, as you get better, you can combine these two components and speed it up. Then for the next skill, gun control, I recommend going to the area of the range where you can pick the distance and trying different shooting styles at different ranges. Important to note here is that the first 5 bullets of both the Phantom and Vandal are pretty easy to control, as all you have to do is pull straight down. But one thing to take note of is that the first 3 bullets of both the Vandal and Phantom barely go up, but the 4th and 5th bullets jump up a lot. So you want to make sure that you end up pulling down your mouse even faster towards the 4th and 5th bullet of your spray. A good way to practice this drill is going from left to right with 5-shot bursts at 10 meters of range. The goal of this practice is to develop your muscle memory because the amount that you need to pull down with your mouse is the same for every distance that you take gunfights in. So no matter the gun and distance, try to get tight groupings with your bullets and experiment with the accuracy of different guns. The more familiar you are with the gun at different ranges, the better you'll be able to use them in game. After that, to practice your movement and peeking, you can place a sage wall in front of you and then peek around the wall to work on your reactions, crosshair placement, and movement. Make sure your first bullet accuracy is good here and try to constantly move from left to right. If you're missing a lot of shots, try to use a gun like the Sheriff or Guardian to really force yourself to be accurate. You might be a little slow at first, but you'll be able to speed it up over time. Then, if you really want to be fluid with your movement, it also helps to run through the parkour section until you can complete it successfully with relative ease. Some of the jumps will require you to crouch jump, and for a lot of jumps, you'll also need to strafe mid-air. If you're really struggling, it's not the most important thing to focus on, but if some of the earlier drills are pretty easy for you, it might be worthwhile spending some time to work on your movement. And to top the fundamentals off, it's a good idea to also play deathmatch in order to focus on your crosshair placement, aim, movement, and gun control all at once. Here, I should mention that it's crucial to understand the difference between warming up and practice. Practice, like in sports, should target specific areas of your game with plenty of time dedicated to each drill. Warming up, on the other hand, is a quick routine meant to get you ready for your games or even before practice. Keep your warm-up under 20 minutes since anything longer can start to drain your energy and hurt your in-game performance. Many players prefer to combine warming up and practice, which makes sense since practicing for hours can get tedious. But remember, if you spend 40 minutes to an hour focused on every drill to warm up, it might cause you to underperform in ranked games. So taking that into consideration, you can try to shorten the time you spend on each drill, keep some drills and take some out, or completely separate your practice and warm-up times. Now that you know what the basic mechanics are and what the drills we need to practice them are, now it's time to move on to the next step, working on our decision-making skills. That's because decision-making, like mechanics, is absolutely crucial in determining whether you win or lose rounds. Of course, if you have much better aim than your opponents, you can get away with decision-making mistakes to an extent. But at some point, you're going to face players that are also strong mechanically, which will force you to rely on game sense as well. Now, this is an area that's generally pretty hard to grasp for newer players. There are a lot of different factors at play, and there's a lot to think about as a new player. So this is where we need to set up a basic decision-making framework to help simplify our decisions in the game so that we can play more confidently and have a clear idea of what we need to do at any moment. To figure out whether a decision is good or bad, you need to understand the balance between risk and reward. At the start of the round, when both teams have full buys and solid agent compositions, the odds of winning are pretty even. This means you should be looking for favorable duels. For instance, dry swinging into an operator right at the start is a huge mistake. The risk of dying is extremely high, and while the reward is decent, it doesn't outweigh the risk. Essentially, your team has around a 50% chance of winning the round by playing it safe, but by taking that risky fight, you're drastically lowering your team's chances. Instead, it's smarter to use your util and work with your team to take map control safely and engaging in more favorable fights. On the contrary, when you're in a desperate situation, like a 1v4 clutch, the dynamics change. The risk of dying to an operator is still high, but because you're already expected to lose a round, the risk is less significant. If you only have, let's say, 10 to 15% chance of winning the round, but taking a fight with a 20 to 25% chance of winning could actually improve your odds of winning the overall round. Suddenly, that fight doesn't seem so bad. Of course, if you have a choice between a fight you're likely to win and one you're not, you should pick the favorable one. But just because a fight looks unfavorable doesn't mean it's a bad idea. For instance, if your team is on an eco with sheriffs and you get a 1v1 against an enemy with a vandal, that's a good fight to take. Even if your chance of winning the duel might only be 25%, it can still increase your team's chances of winning the round. Your team's chances of winning the round without the kill might only be 20% anyways, so you don't have much to lose. But if you win that duel, and better yet, you take a 2v1 fight and win that duel and pick up the gun, your chances of winning the round could double to 40% because now you have a man advantage and a better weapon. Understanding this concept early on is crucial because it's key to grasping the game at a higher level and learning more effectively. If you lose a 50-50 or even a 40-60 duel while you're trying to win a 1v4 clutch, the lesson shouldn't be that you took a bad fight and you lost a round because of it. The decision to take that fight was good because it increased your odds of winning the overall round when you were already expected to lose a round. Similarly, pushing into the enemy spawn and picking up some eco frags doesn't mean you should take away that was a good play. Sure, you technically took favorable fights and you got a lot of kills, but it was actually a pretty dumb idea and you took an unnecessary risk. Valorant is a complicated game to learn, since you can get rewarded for bad plays and you can get punished for good ones. If you're either above or below average when it comes to mechanics and game sense, it becomes especially hard to reflect on whether or not the decisions you made were justified, which is why it's so important to have a decision-making framework in which you can evaluate your choices. However, there's another thing that's really important here. Since it's really difficult to accurately reflect on whether or not your choices are good or bad, especially as someone who doesn't already have a lot of experience playing the game at a high level, it's extremely valuable to have a properly trained and experienced coach by your side. Once you have the basics down and you no longer need to worry about what each agent does, how you should use each weapon, or where enemies might be on specific maps, it's all about honing in on your weaknesses and working on specific things one by one while keeping the fundamentals in mind in the background. Simply said, this is something that's incredibly difficult to do without having some sort of outside support. Since you don't know how to play like a pro or a Radiant as a new to intermediate player by definition, it's impossible for you to know the intricate difference between how you play and how a more experienced players play. In other words, how can you teach yourself to play like a pro if you yourself don't already know how to play like a pro? Now, I think it's important to mention that not just any player that's a higher rank than yourself fits the description of a good coach. Even many Immortal players have plenty of bad habits that they might teach you to make as well. And even if someone's a good player, that doesn't automatically make them a good coach. So we do recommend getting a coach that you know you can trust, like for example, one at IRP. But even if you go with a different coach, having someone to point you in the right direction is usually better than trying to take a wild guess at what the right direction is by yourself. Those 3 points cover the big picture strategies, and if you focus on them, I'm confident you'll see a lot of success. However, there are a few smaller tips I want to touch on that are equally important and can give you an extra edge. These include optimizing your settings, refining your playstyle, and even tips on watching videos like this one to improve your gameplay. Let's dive into the first tip, settings. A lot of settings come down to personal preference, like whether you prefer bodies or holograms, what color you want your player outlines to be, or if you want to play left-handed or right-handed. But there are also some settings that you should consider changing by default, as they do give you a real advantage. For example, turning off Keep Player Centered allows you to see more of the map, which is crucial, especially if your teammates aren't VCT level communicators. Another important setting is enabling HRTF under audio settings. This enhances your ability to pinpoint enemy locations if you're using a stereo headset or earbuds. Additionally, toggling on tactical callouts in chat ensures that even if your team's communication isn't top tier and you're not constantly watching the map, you'll still have access to important callouts as they automatically appear in the chat, helping you keep track of the round's progress. Lastly, a great setting tip to help you with your shooting accuracy is enabling the movement error graph setting. This tool shows you when your bullets are accurate while strafing in gunfights, allowing you to better learn and control your movement during gunfights. Now that we've gone over settings, let's go over another really important tip, which is trying to play proactively to control your games and have a larger impact on the outcome of each round. If you're sitting back behind your teammates all the time, you won't have enough time to try stuff for yourself and learn from your mistakes. Of course, playing aggressively is difficult, and you're definitely going to lose your team rounds by trying something, failing, and dying because of it. But that's how you learn. A mistake that's bigger than the one that costs you the round is making the decision to never try things at all. So if you want to improve, you want to be proactive, always trying something out, making mistakes, and learning from them. Also, in part because of that reason, I really recommend playing duelists if you're just starting out. They're ideal for the aggressive playstyle, and with them, you have more room for mistakes, and you also have more abilities to help you succeed, even if your teammates don't know how or don't want to necessarily help you. Then, regardless of whether you decide to play duelists or not, it's always a good idea to stick to a small agent pool so that you can build up experience with your kit and eventually shift your focus away from ability usage and onto more pressing things like decision making. And as a final tip, try to take into account the 80-20 rule. Of course, you can't spend all day playing games, but even if you could, it's not the most effective way to learn. If you have some downtime, need a quick break, or just want to watch a video, it's a good idea to mix that in with your practice and playtime. Mindlessly grinding the game all day, every day isn't always going to be most fruitful. So taking about 20% of your total time spent on Valorant and using that to watch educational content or even analyzing pro gameplay is a great way to mix things up and giving yourself clearer goals to work towards. And that's all you need to know for this video. Thanks for watching.